Sorry, we're late.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! We are here today to talk about
weight management in women and what weight management looks like.
and how much fun it is. Because it really is fun.
It really is fun.
It really is fun.
It's really one of my favorite things to do. And part of the reason it's one of my favorite things to do is that a lot of what people think causes weight gain or weight loss is wrong.
Exhibit A. Super wrong. So don't be alarmed because we have a ton of great information to share with you guys. I'm excited to actually talk about this stuff. So weight management, let's start with what's the word I'm looking for? The stereotype of what weight management is.
You mean weight loss?
Weight loss.
So weight management is a couple of things because there are a subset of women for whom their weight management means they would like to gain more weight because they have trouble keeping weight on. And then there's a subset of women for whom weight management means weight loss because they feel like they hold on to weight in ways that they wish that they didn't. And a lot of those women are women who have been largely told that the reason that they are heavy is because they're eating too much food, because they're eating too much food because they're not moving enough. So a lot of what those women have heard for the course of their life from the time they started feeling like they were having weight troubles is, well, you just need to exercise more and you need to eat less food, and calories in, calories out, burn your calories, don't take in as many calories, and then it's a caloric intake thing. And that's where most people are approaching weight loss from. They're approaching it from that mentality, including providers. Most providers are approaching their recommendations for managing somebody's weight, most of which are totally ineffective.
Yeah.
They are approaching it from a position of, well, if you ate a little bit less and you moved a little bit more, then it's this very simple linear equation in which you would just lose weight. And that's not the case.
I very much know that that's not the case. And if anybody out there is watching who knows me, hello Megan. Oh, so here for this. This whole topic has been mind-blowing to me as well. So please tune in. I totally lost my train of thought.
Anybody out there knows Sarah?
Oh yes, if anybody out there knows me, you hopefully can see there is a little less of me, a little more jawline, a little more bones everywhere, which has been the most wonderful journey over the last, I'm going on 5 months now. Mm-hmm. But when I had my initial conversation with you about where I would like to be in my life, my mind was very much blown and my world has been forever changed. So, thanks, Megan. So my mindset was always what you just said. Eat less, work out more, don't eat the white pasta, eat the whole wheat pasta. There's different, drink the Diet Coke, don't drink the regular Coke. If you're going to drink Coke, if you're going to drink Red Bull, which I love, drink the sugar-free Red Bull. And all of that is wrong. Mm-hmm. It's all wrong.
It's all wrong.
So, I'm gonna cry now. I feel like my brain could go in 18 different directions right now. So, help me work through where we should start.
Well, so I think one of the things that also becomes a problem when people think about approaching weight loss is something like a fad diet or something that has suddenly been, maybe it's been on Ellen, or maybe it's been on Oprah, or maybe it's been on doctors, and there's now a new diet that's available, and people think like that's the thing, right? Like that's the secret. And if I just do that, if I just engage in that one behavior, or I change this one thing and I do like South Beach, then that's like the answer, right? Like South Beach is the answer and we should all do South Beach and all lose weight. And that's not accurate. And one of the things that I think is overlooked a lot when we talk about weight management and what causes people to gain or lose weight is, number one, a genetic predisposition. But in that genetic predisposition, a difference in how certain foods are metabolized and how certain macronutrients, so macronutrients being protein, carbohydrates, and fat, like those big things that are listed on the back of the nutrition label, how those things are absorbed into our bodies, processed and turned into either energy, poop, or fat. And not everybody does it the same way.
Right.
Because if you and I do 23andMe, if we do some like genetic testing, we're going to have completely different genes. And if we get not just the printout of our heritage, but also the health printout, we're going to have completely different predispositions to a lot of things, like our bone health, how our skin looks, what our hair is doing, how we grow hair, all kinds of things. And the same is true for how we process food. Our guts are completely regulated by the chemicals in our bodies. So our guts are regulated by hormones, our guts are regulated by the bacteria that's in our guts, our guts are regulated by how our bodies are responding to those foods. So do we have an intolerance to something? And is it causing inflammation? And if it's causing inflammation, actually that causes weight gain. So it releases all of these chemicals into our body that cause us to screw up how we're holding on to food because of what's happening chemically in our body. And I think a huge portion of when we're talking about weight loss, a huge portion of how it's approached not just from a medical perspective, but socially, is as if it's a behavioral problem, as if there's something like you're lacking because you're heavy, you're lacking something that I have. And like, I know the trick, I know the thing, and I have a better behavior than you do. So for instance, if I were to sit down at a restaurant and eat a plate of cookies, the entire plate of cookies,
which I would love to do,
nobody would say anything about it.
No.
They might not even think anything about it in their heads. They might not even have a response to it. Nobody would say anything if I ate an entire plate of cookies. In a restaurant full of people, I'm sitting there eating the cookies, nobody would think anything of it. And it's because I'm thin. If you sat there and ate the whole plate of cookies, same as I did, people would think you fat pig.
Even if you were,
that's why she's fat.
Even if we were sitting next to each other doing it at the same time.
There would be a totally different perception. And you would feel differently about eating that plate of cookies than I would, because you would feel guilty, like you were being fat. And I would not gain weight the same way from those cookies as you would. And so for me, it wouldn't feel like I was doing anything bad, because my body doesn't react to that the same way that your body does. But it doesn't mean that I have more willpower, or that I'm doing something secret, or that I'm like, I've got the magic wand for thinness inside of myself and I just know this thing to do. It means that your body's processing food differently than my body's processing food. And there are things that you can eat that I should not be eating. And there are things that I can eat that you should not be eating. And when we look at weight management as a composite, we should not be looking at weight management as the same, just as we should not in any circumstance, in any medical condition, in any emotional condition, we should not be looking at any individual as needing the same treatment as any other individual, because they never will. You're not the same person. Even if you have the same underlying problem, you will not respond to medications the same as anybody else. You will not respond to food, which basically is processed like medication is, right? You take it in, your body consumes it, puts it into your bloodstream, and you process it. You metabolize it the same way medication is metabolized in your body. You will have different side effects from medication than I will. You may have antibiotics that work better for you than I do. You may have things that you are allergic to or have an intolerance to that I don't, and vice versa. So we should never look at two human beings, and for me, two women, because that's what I see, we should never look at them as having the same problem and needing the same treatment. And in my world, that's true for every single condition. But in particular for weight management, I think it's really important, because I think a lot of what's culturally presented is these umbrella solutions, right? Like, this is the solution. If you just do Atkins, then everybody will lose all the weight and they'll be healthy. Or like, this is the new thing that everybody's doing. And because I don't watch The Doctors or Oprah or Ellen, I don't know what the new thing is. South Beach is probably totally dating me. But But that's what happens.
Yeah.
Every year there's a new thing, and then people try it, and it's not sustainable, or it's not helping them lose weight, so they abandon it, or it isn't what they needed in the first place.
Right.
Like, for instance, and I'm going to bring this up, and not to put you on the spot,
No.
but when you initially saw me for weight management,
You're probably going to say what I was.
you thought
thinking.
I was going to tell you had to go work out.
Oh.
And you dreaded it, and you were like, "Oh, she's gonna tell me like I have to work out all the time, and I don't want to,
Yeah.
and it's uncomfortable for me to go to the gym.
It's very
The
uncomfortable.
pants aren't really fit, and then
Yeah.
people are like, haha, look at the fat girl trying to lift weights. Like,
Exactly.
oh, look at her going so
What are you doing
slowly.
here?
Why are you here? You're
Yeah.
still fat." And you thought that I was going to tell you that, and that's
Right.
where most people start,
Yeah.
especially in this new year with the resolutions, right? They're like, "I'm going to join the gym,
Yeah.
and it's going to get this under control."
Yeah.
Not usually,
Yeah.
because it's not usually coming from what we're being presented culturally
Yeah.
is the problem, the sedentary lifestyle. That's not usually what's actually causing the problem, because I don't work out anymore. You work out. And my body is smaller than your body,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have anything to do with the number of calories that I'm actively seeking to
Yeah.
burn.
When I was thinking, when you said that, I originally, like
For some people, Megan, if I went keto, I would get fat.
well, that's what I was just gonna. I've done an array of the fad diets, right? Like I've done the keto, I've done Atkins, I've tried South Beach, I did the Beachbody stuff, I did the Shakeology, I've done the whatever those sprinkles were that you put on your food and make. I mean, I've done them all, and maybe they work for a month, maybe they work for 2 months, but like you said, clearly none of them were sustainable for me. Or I joined CrossFit, which I did enjoy going to CrossFit, made me feel good. But I would think to myself, like, I could eat whatever I want during the day because I'm going to go to CrossFit and sweat my ass off and lose it all. And
That's not what
it did no, and I mean, maybe I lost a little bit of weight, but I never dropped, the pounds that I was hoping to drop because I was uncomfortable.
Oh, keto is the new thing. Yes, it is. Keto is the new thing because in this past decade, what we've done is vilify all carbs. We've vilified carbs and sugar, which maybe we should, but we vilified that where before we were vilifying trans fat, right? So maybe some of you are too young to remember that there were Wow chips that made everybody poop out the fat. Do you remember the Wow chips? The potato chips?
Yeah.
You were too young.
Well, I never did them, but I do remember seeing them.
Yeah, before this decade of, so from the 2000s to the 2010s, everybody was really focused on trans fat, and the fat of things was what was making people fat. Like, fat was making people fat. And so then things like Twizzlers got fat-free put on them, right? So now it's a health food. Or now we're talking about carbs, right? So things, and we're really focusing on gluten, right? Like, gluten is the thing. Gluten is making everybody fat. So everything says gluten-free on it now, as if that somehow makes it like better for you.
Right.
And I think,
If you have a gluten allergy, it does.
if you have a gluten allergy, if you have a gluten intolerance, gluten is a problem.
Right.
If you do not have a gluten intolerance, gluten is not the problem.
Right.
And if you take gluten out, you may or may not actually lose weight. If you have a gluten intolerance and it's creating an inflammatory state, then yes, that may be the thing for you. But there's no way for you to know what's going to be the thing for you without figuring out metabolically what's happening in your body anyway. Because like I said, for Megan, like keto, she said keto, if you go on keto, that's going to be something that might work really well for you.
Right.
If I go on keto, I'm just going to get fat. Like, I'm going to gain a bunch of weight. And that's because I'm processing all of those fats and proteins differently than you're processing them.
Right.
And my body processes carbohydrates totally differently than your body processes carbohydrates. And in the weight management program that I do, where the vast majority of women are seeing me because their intent is to lose weight, not any single one person has the same thing happening in their body. Not any single one person, and not any single one person has the same plan.
Right.
Like, everybody's completely different. There are some similarities from one person to the next, but nobody has the same plan. So I would just caution people as they go out and make their resolution, like, I'm going to lose weight, that they need to have a customized, tailored plan that takes into account how their body actually processes food and how their body responds to exercise. Because there's this big intermittent fasting thing, right?
Yeah.
A big intermittent fasting thing. When you plateaued in your weight management, I said, well, how often are you eating? You said, well, I'm going a long time without eating. Well, for you, that's actually going to help you keep weight on.
Right.
So intermittent fasting is not the solution for everybody. It doesn't work well for you. Going vegan doesn't work well for lots of people. For lots of people, veganism is a bad thing.
Yeah.
And it really just depends on what biochemically is happening in their bodies.
Yeah.
And that's not something that you can find in a DVD.
Right.
It's not something that you can buy on Amazon, because all of the weight loss programs that are sold to the masses, right? Like they're commoditized things saying, this is the trick. Here's the secret. I'm going to teach you the secret. But you can't teach the same secret to everybody and have everybody respond the same way.
Right. I think that's
because the secret is there's no secret.
Well, the secret is, I think that's one of the biggest things too, is all those fat diets, like you said, are portrayed that they can work for anybody, any size, any shape, any medical condition, which sometimes we don't realize we have until we start really digging deep into what is happening internally, which the amount of times I've been to the doctor looking for help for my weight has clearly never been successful until these last 5 months, where we decided to do this, and you took a look at things that no provider has ever looked at before to help me find my path on what would work best for me personally. And I do know with all of our weight management patients, like you said, every single one of them has a different road, and every single one of them, you've taken the time to really look at not only what they're eating and what their body's doing, but their everyday living and what their lifestyle is like. And if they have a partner, like what type of body type is their partner, or what happens when their partner eats certain things, because that then affects what we put in our homes and what we put in our pantries and what we feed our kids. And so it's life-changing.
And I think it's complicated too, because I think when we start talking about food, it's the building block, right? Like we would all die if we didn't eat food. So food is a very, very important part. I mean, it's a staple of not just our economy, right? Because agriculture is a huge part of industry in this country. So it's a staple of our economy, but it's also what we focus on a lot, because we have to eat. We have to eat to be able to live. And I think a lot of people think about dieting or weight loss as like resulting in them starving all the time, or feeling hungry, or being miserable, or depriving themselves constantly. And that's not the solution. The solution is not for you to walk around feeling hungry and unhappy, because that causes different chemicals to be released in your body, which causes a different problem.
Right.
So I think it really has to be approached from a holistic perspective, taking into account all of the different spheres of somebody's life, including, and probably most importantly, what's happening chemically in their bodies.
Yeah.
And I think that is the thing that medicine has done that has really failed everybody, women. It has really failed women who are trying to lose weight, is tell them that it's a behavior, and that if they would just change their behavior, then they would be able to change their weight, because it makes people feel like they've failed. It gives them that sense of guilt, and it makes people feel like they have to do something that involves a lot of willpower, that involves a lot of self-control, that involves them like suffering. And that if they can't do that suffering thing, that they're then somehow like a bad person. You've done something bad. Or really, we should be reframing it as a processing problem in the body.
Yeah.
And identifying that particular problem and taking those things out. For one of my weight management patients, she can't eat vegetables.
Yeah.
It's the vegetables.
Yeah.
It is the vegetables. It is the fruits and vegetables that are causing the problem.
Yeah.
What?
And the minute we took them out,
she lost a lot of weight.
I mean, that was that.
And that's because of her specific underlying condition.
I can eat all the fruits.
You can eat all the fruits and vegetables. It doesn't cause a problem for you. But people would say, to this other patient, you will lose weight if you eat fruits and vegetables, and you just need to eat more fruits and vegetables. But that was actually part of, if not the entire problem for this particular patient. So that actually just highlights, we have to look at the whole picture. We have to be willing to do that deeper dive into what's going on. And it's not a quick fix, but when you get to the root of how your body's processing food, which is really much more important than exercise, and I don't mean to demean or belittle exercise, because it's actually, I think I've said this before, the one thing that prevents us from dying. The one thing that makes it less likely that we will die from all causes is exercise. So we should be exercising, we should be strengthening our bodies, we should be moving our bodies, but not because we want to lose weight.
Yeah.
It's not the secret to weight loss.
Well, I do think about that.
Yes, age affects weight, Debbie. No, not vegetables. Yes, I have a patient who cannot eat vegetables because they cause her to gain weight. And that's mind-blowing for most people. For most people, that's like, wait, this is a whole paradigm shift of vegetables are healthy. That's a healthy thing to eat. There's a variety of other things that she also cannot eat, but she cannot eat vegetables. She's going to make her gain weight. And she's not going to end up with a dietary problem or a deficiency as a result of that. And that's the other thing that should be discussed, is that some of the diets that people go on actually cause problems for them in terms of deficiencies that they have in their body as a result of the restriction that they're doing. Age can absolutely affect weight, and age affects weight because age affects how we produce hormones, and hormones interact with all the other chemicals in our bodies, and there are so many of them. And the chemicals in our bodies are really largely responsible for how we're processing food. It is really, if you think back to high school chemistry and writing out those equations, like the hydrogen plus the carbon, and now we've got this, like, or you think about the volcano, right? Like the science fair project of the volcano pouring in the baking soda, now it's exploding, but when they were by themselves, they were not exploding. It is all chemical reaction. What you're taking in, food, it's not just a cucumber, right? Like, it's something that turns into all of its chemical components inside of your body. And those chemical components interact with all of the other chemicals, the acid in your stomach, the oxygen in your blood, everything in your body is the cytokines that you're releasing because you're in an inflamed state. Everything that you're releasing in your body is interacting with that food as it's broken down into its components. And that's determining how you hold on to that food, or what your body does in terms of processing, whether it becomes a volcano or whether it just stays as like a colored water.
Your analogies kill me sometimes.
But it is a chemical process. And so as we age, the chemicals that are released change, and the foods that we process change as well. When we come in for a weight management appointment, what can we expect?
That's a really good question.
Okay, so if you were to come in for a weight management consultation, what I would do initially, typically it takes an hour to an hour and a half at minimum to go through your first weight management appointment. What you would expect is for me to ask you a lot of questions, and a lot of questions that will probably seem entirely unrelated to your weight. Like, I will ask you how you sleep. I will ask you when you go to the bathroom. I will ask you a lot of questions that have seemingly nothing to do with your weight, but are actually extremely important for weight loss. And then we'll put together a map of what I suspect is going on, what you suspect is going on. I will ask you about weight over the course of your life. I will ask you about your entire family. I will ask you about your activity patterns. I will ask you about your work. I will ask you about what you do at particular hours of the day. There will be a lot of questioning, and you will feel like you're in an interrogation. And we'll take note of lots of different factors, and we'll take note of what's happened over the course of your life with your weight. And then I will tell you what I think is happening. You will tell me what you think is happening, and we'll develop a goal. And it's not my goal, because I don't care. Right? Like, how many times have I told you I don't actually care what you eat?
You don't even care if
I don't actually care what you weigh.
Right.
It doesn't matter to me. So we will identify. I will assist you in identifying your goal, which should not have anything to do with a number.
Right.
We have to use the number. So you will be weighed. We have to use the number because it's measurable, and it's measurable over time. So we can use that to determine the efficacy of what we're doing. We can say, yes, we're doing the right thing. Yes, we're on the right path based on that, but it shouldn't be the goal. So I will never tell you that you should get to an ideal body weight, that you should get to a certain BMI, that you should use the number as your goal, because it's not. Your goal should be something having to do with your function or feeling in life. And we'll get to that goal. We'll establish that goal, and then you're going to get a lab slip with a lot of labs on it. A lot of labs. And the reason why we need those labs is because we need the data to be able to tell us this is what's going on, this is not what's going on, or nothing's happening with any of these labs, and there's nothing at all happening there, because it's all going to send us down a different path. And it may be that that path changes during the course of your weight management depending on how we start out. So then we craft a plan for what you're going to do, how often you want to come in and see me, how often you want to utilize an ancillary service that assists with weight loss, which most of the patients who are seeing me for weight management choose to do. And we create a plan that's entirely, if Megan were coming in, it's entirely just for Megan. Like, it's how Megan integrates it into her life, what Megan does at work, what Megan does in relation to her kids. What Megan's going to eat is going to look completely different because Megan's day is totally different from yours.
Yeah.
And Megan's behaviors are totally different from yours. And we're just going to craft a plan for how we're going to approach it. And that plan's going to feel like hell initially because it's totally different from what was happening before. Because if you're coming in for weight management, what you're doing isn't working, right? Like, what is happening in your life isn't working. And while it's not behavioral, it does require a shift in what you're doing during the day and what you're purchasing at the store and what you're putting in your mouth.
And what you've tried in the past.
And what you've tried in the past isn't working. It requires a shift in some of the things that you do during the day. And that feels bad because we don't like to change stuff. And a lot of things can have to shift at the same time. So the other thing that happens in the weight management program is you text me all the time. You go to the grocery store and you text me, like, can I have this? Wait, what about this? Because in that hour and a half to 2 hours, however long we spend in the room, we can't talk about every single food, and we can't talk about every single thing that might arise that could potentially impact the success of your weight loss. So you text me all the time and tell me, like, I'm at the store, or I went out to eat and now I'm a little bit stumped. What is it that I can order? Here's the menu. What about alcohol? Can I have alcohol? If I can't have alcohol, what kind of alcohol can I have? And we go from there. That's what the initial weight management appointment will look like. And generally, unless you decline it, I take a picture of you. And I take a picture of you like you would be in the fitting room, where you don't want to be, with the fluorescent lights, like pinching all the stuff. God, I wish that weren't there. Trying not to look in the mirror. I take a picture of you and I have you show me what you wish would change about your body. So you stand in your underpants in front of me and I take a picture of you front, side, back. And I don't take it anywhere that I can save it because I don't care.
Right.
I really don't care. I don't need the picture. I know what you look like. I take the picture for you to save it on your phone so that in a month we can take another picture, because just like with our children, when we live with our children, we see them every day. We don't realize they're growing until we put them against the measurement stick and we say, oh, look, you grew 3 inches. But if we were to be away for any period of time, even just a week, and come back, we'd be like, oh, you grew. But they're growing incrementally every day, and we acclimate to what they look like every day, and we don't really notice their growth until we look back on pictures of them. The same is true when we're adjusting something about our weight. We acclimate every day because it's gradual, right? Like, if it's a huge dump of weight suddenly, it's probably not sustainable. It's probably not sustainable. Although you've lost a massive amount of weight in what is really a small amount of time. So really in a small amount of time, but it's been this kind of like incremental, like, am I ever going to get to, like, I remember when you were saying, like, I'm never going to lose 50 pounds. Well, now we're past that.
Yeah.
And it just happens slowly over time. And I remember Sarah coming in and saying to me, I'm not losing any weight. I actually look worse now than I did before.
I did.
And she had to pull up the picture and look at the picture from before and take another one and put them side by side and say, no, I don't look worse.
Whoops.
No, whoops, I did actually lose weight.
And it's true, that happens. I mean, getting my shower every day, I look in the mirror and I'm like,
when
when did this happen? Like, when did I gain it all back? And then
And you
came in upset, and
we look at
you're like, that's it. Take your clothes off. Take a picture. And I did. I put them side by side, and I was like, just kidding. I don't want to go back. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind.
Now that's not a body shaming thing either. So there are some women for whom that's a traumatic thing to do, and we don't do it. I just say, if this doesn't feel good to you, or like it's a useful tool, or it feels damaging, we're not going to do it, because I don't care. It's really to create a tool for you to use so that you can track your progress.
That's my insurance.
Yeah, when the number becomes meaningless.
For my assurance.
It's your assurance that something's happening, that things are changing.
Yeah.
Megan, we love you.
I would say we love you.
But I am late, actually, for a weight management patient who was coming in at 12:30, and I think she's probably in the waiting room, and I'm going to go take care of her. But if you have questions about weight management, if you have questions about your own personal weight management, if you have questions about somebody's weight in your life, if you have questions about weight generally and like the screwed up things that we do with weight in this country and the way that we make women feel about their weight and the psychology of weight in this country.
Because you shouldn't feel bad.
You shouldn't
If I learned anything, I'm not fat, I'm not lazy.
You're not stupid. You don't have poor self-control.
I don't have poor self-control.
You're not sitting and eating frosting all day. Like, we make it a behavioral problem that it actually is not. And there's a lot of shame that gets built into it for both heavy women and underweight women. So I don't want to overlook the underweight women here either, because there are some weight management patients who need assistance in eating properly so that they can gain weight, and who have their own sense of shame around their thin state. But if you have questions about anything having to do with weight management,
or if you're ready
for weight management, if you'd like help with weight management, don't hesitate to give us a call. It is, I'm telling you, it is like my favorite thing in the world to work on. I love weight management, so call and let us know, or send us a message, and I will answer those questions.
Life-changing.
Otherwise, have a great weekend, and next week, Dr. Chen will be here talking about the abnormal pap smear and what happens when you have an abnormal pap. Bye, guys.
Toodle.